Hello, in this video I'll be showing you how to use the Hierarchical Scatter tool. The level that you see here is completely built using the same tool. The rocks, the trees, and even the bushes, they are all placed using the scatter tool. So if I press G and show you, all these billboards are from the scatter blueprint, and you can see that all of these are placed using the tool itself, even the trees and everything. So I'll be showing you how to make something like this, but before that I'll be showing you how to use the tool and how it works and everything. So I'll just go to a different level so I can demonstrate that. So here we are, and the first thing you need to do is navigate to Hierarchical Scatter folder, and you'll be able to see a blueprint called BPH Scatter. Just drag and drop that into the level. And make sure you move it up a little bit because it has trace by default. Whatever mesh you feed in is going to go stick onto the underlying geometry or landscape automatically. The first thing you need to do is to add in some mesh so you can spawn them. So to do that, go to spawner config and add an element to it. And under the mesh, you can add a few elements, and if you expand these, you'll be able to add a mesh and give a random scale to it. So let's add some mesh into this. I'll go to scatter rocks and I'll add 3 rock meshes to this, and I'll also give them a scale value because it's too small. You can see like we have 2 meshes spawned already. It's too small, so I'll give a good scale value, like a range of 6 to 8. 6 to 8 and 6 to 8 here as well. Okay, so this is how you set up your mesh. Once you're happy with it, you can collapse that and take a look at other options. So segments is the number of times you want your mesh to be spawned. Basically, this works on a circle. So the way it is coded is you split the circle into multiple segments, and on each segment you spawn a mesh. So if you want to increase the number of meshes you need, just give a different value like 10. So you'll have 10 meshes spawned. So the min and max radius determines how far a mesh should be spawned from its center. So if we give a same value of maybe 500 and 500, it's going to take the center of this blueprint over here and spawn them 500 centimeters away from the center. So to break the pattern, what we can do is give a random, you can give a min and max value for the radius. So let's say 200 to 500, which means from the center, it's going to spawn anywhere between 200 to 500 centimeters away. So that's the basic configuration. But what we can do is make each of these elements as a center and spawn a circle around each of these previously spawned points. So to explain this, I will make the segments 3, give a nice far value 300 to 500, and then I can just give another element in the spawner config. And to explain, if I just add a mesh, the random mesh, give it a scale of 2 to 3. So you can see that each of these previously spawned points are spawning a circle, and on top of that circle, you're able to spawn these secondary meshes, which you just added here. So to explain this further, I can give the same value for min and max radius. So you can see that each of this is spawning a circle. Okay, and just to break the pattern, I'm going to give a large range like 150 to 300. Okay, maybe this is not enough, so I can give like 100 to 400. Yeah, it's slightly better, but we can make it much better by increasing these segments on top. So now that's better than before. So as we did before, we can add more meshes to the second ring. So you can even duplicate the previous setup by just saying duplicate and giving a different mesh here. I'll duplicate it again and give a different mesh so that I don't have to type in the scale value again. Okay, so now you can see that we have different meshes being spawned. Okay, and by the way, we have random Z rotation as well. So if I put 0, 0 here, you'll be able to find that you'll be able to find similar spawns. Like all these are looking very similar to each other. So to break that, we are just rotating each instance of that. So I usually give random values between 0 to 359. So it's like truly random. Okay. So what we can do more is add another ring so that each of these secondary spawn is going to spawn another ring, and that will be the tertiary spawn. So to do that, I'm just going to add another spawner config. So I can either add and then do the same, set it up the same way, or I can just duplicate what I have previously. So I can just duplicate that. It's going to add another one. Okay, and here we can play with the values. Let's say 300 to 500. Let's say 50 here. Give it 100 here, and we can play with the scales as well. Actually, I'll leave the scale as it is, and I'll change the scale on index 1, which is the secondary spawn. I'll make this slightly bigger, so 4 to 6, 4 to 6, maybe 3 to 5. Okay, and if you see any repetitions like that, just play with the values and you'll get nice randomness going on. So we have the spawner configuration done, which means that we input all the meshes that we want to scatter and in the way we need to scatter. So let's take a look at the other options over here. Randomize is basically what it says, like you can just click on it to randomize the arrangement, and once you're happy with an arrangement, you can do freeze arrangement over here. So freeze arrangement will freeze it, so if you move, it's not going to change. However, whereas if you uncheck freeze arrangement and move it, each time you move, it's going to change the arrangement. So to avoid that, we've given this option. You can freeze arrangement and then move it, so it won't change. Okay. Now I can show you how collision works with the tool. I'm just going to bring these here, and I'm going to make a copy of it and build a little something over here, like a ramp. Yeah, that works. So So right now it doesn't work because we haven't reset the blueprint yet. So if you click on the blueprint and just move it around a little bit, it's going to take the collision of the object that's underneath. Okay, it's going to respect however your terrain or your objects are placed. So because we have this trace enabled, so if you move, it's going to take the shape of anything that is underneath it. Okay, so sometimes you will not want this. So what you can do at those times is you can just add these objects in the ignore list. So the ignore list is over here, actors to ignore for trace, right? So you can just make 3 empty slots and you can pick these assets. So if you notice, while I'm picking, all these all these rocks that are spawned on top are just going in, which is exactly what is expected. Okay, so now if you move it around, it's going to ignore the collisions of these objects. And of course, if you decided to have them placed on top after all, you can just delete these and immediately they go and sit on top of these. Okay, and this works even when freeze arrangement is on, because sometimes we will want to make an arrangement and then move it around. So that makes sense. And the next thing I want to show you is align to normal option. So basically, align to normal is on by default. This works exactly like how it works in the foliage tool. So if you uncheck it, it's going to not rotate as per the underlying normal. However, if you check it, it's going to sit nicely as per the surface. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. And another thing is turning off this trace. So if you uncheck trace, it's not going to it's not going to respect the underlying terrain. So there are some use cases for this, like if you want to make something like in air, you can disable trace and start making your arrangement. I can show you by unchecking freeze arrangement and clicking randomize. So you can see that even without trace, the randomize works. So, but usually people would have trace on so that they'll be able to scatter things around in a realistic way on ground or whatever. Okay, so these are the basics of the tool. We learned how to set up our spawner, and then we learned how to use these different options over here. In the next part of this video, I'll show you how to make a level out of it. Like we've seen rock example, I'll be showing you how to make a bush and some tree scatter. Okay, so let's go there. Okay, so we are in a different level now, and in this level I just have a basic landscape, and the material of the landscape is the one that's spawning all these grass meshes. And this is the level in which I'll be showing you how to use the scatter tool to scatter some assets in the world. So let's get started. I'm just dragging and dropping the tool. I'm going to do all the basic setup. I'm going to set the scale to like 8 to 10. And I'm going to shift right click on the scale and then shift click on all the other scales. So it just copies the values over. And I'm going to copy this setup by duplicating. And I'm just going to change the scale and the mesh. I'm just going to randomize, see what works for me, and I'll freeze this. Okay. And what I can do is just duplicate this blueprint and place it wherever I want. So you need to uncheck the freeze arrangement, only then you'll be able to see what's going on. If we increase the number, we might want to increase the radius as well, so it gets so it covers a larger area. It's not that you need to keep changing the values all the time for all your instances, but you can just play with it and see what works for you. Now let's do some trees. I'll go back to the folder, drag and drop this. So with trees, you'll see that we really need this option here. So if I uncheck align to normal, it's going to spawn straight. It won't be rotated as per the normal. Next, I can show you how I make some bushes. And even for this, I'll remove align to normal, because if I check align to normal and if we place the bush in this slope, it's going to look weird. Like it's all spawned in this direction, so we don't need that. So I'll just uncheck align to normal. It's going to be spawned straight. And here, if you notice, some of the rocks are spawned on top of other rocks, and that's because of the collision. So if you don't want that, just click on the rock that is on top, and you can add actors to ignore. So add an index over here and pick the thing that you don't want it to collide with. So this one. So as soon as I picked, it went down. The same thing happens when you move things on top of trees. So let me just quickly show you. I'll duplicate this and move it inside. So you can see that some rocks have spawned over there. And to avoid that, we need to add these trees to the ignore list. I'm just going to do that. So as soon as I do that, all rocks are settled on the ground. Okay. And this weird bug happens. So if I just do that, it's gonna go away. Okay. And that's how you use the scatter plugin to quickly scatter stuff in your level. Another thing which we want to show you is you can actually bake these out as static meshes. So right now all these are blueprints, and we don't have any individual control over these rocks. If you want that, you need to bake these as static mesh, and we have another tool for that. If you go into the Hierarchical Scatter folder and go into Utilities, we have a baker tool here. What you need to do is right click on this and run as Utility Widget, and you will get this window over here. Okay, and it says exactly what to do. And if you just follow this and click on this create actors, it's going to make all these rocks individual assets. So let's do that for this rock. Okay, so you need to click on the blueprint which you want to change, and then in the outliner you can see all these blueprints we have. Let me close the lighting folder. So if I say rock spawn, and if I click create actors, it just takes a second and it makes a folder for you called rock spawn, and all these assets are now individual static meshes. So you can move them, you can rotate them, you can even scale them and everything. And once you're happy with the arrangement, you can delete the previous blueprint which you have. So if I delete the blueprint, you're still going to have all these rocks placed in the level as individual assets. Okay, so this is what you will do if you want to delete stuff as well. So let's go ahead and delete these, but you can't delete it now. You need to first change them into static mesh. I'm just going to dock this here. So to convert all this into a static mesh, I'm going to click on them and call it tree spawn create actors. So if you go into outliner, you can see there's a folder called tree spawn, and all of these actors are named as per what you have given as well. So now you can just delete the unwanted things. Okay, and then you can select the blueprint and you can even delete the blueprint. Okay, so that's how we can use the plugin, and I hope the utility widget will also be quite useful for you guys. There's another thing which you can do. This is just a tip, you know, like if you want to make these as instances, you can just select all these actors over here. So right click on a folder, select immediate children. So it's going to select all these actors, and you can just go to tools, merge actors. In merge actors, just click on batch. Okay, so batch will actually make all of these instances. So you will lose all these static mesh properties, but you'll have the instance properties. I'll just show you how it's done. You can say replace actors and then click merge. So what will happen is all of these things are now instances. You can see that you have only the option to change the transformation. And now all of these static mesh actors are gone. Instead you have this actor. So we have three types of trees, right? So each type will be here in this actor, and all the other duplicates will be instanced. Okay, this is just a small performance optimization tip. You can do this, or you can just convert it to static mesh and keep it if you want like that. So yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching.